and also part of the Islanders broadcast team. AJ, great to have you with us.
Thank you, Max. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm not in, sometimes I get to talk to you guys from all over different places or even in Nashville itself, but I'm actually home right now.
That's great. So back home in New England, back home in Mass for the time being, and a great place to be for sure as we wind down the NHL season. Let's talk some Preds, because you get to see a lot of the Eastern Conference teams in person and get to see the West teams as well when you travel for ESPN and do games on ESPN Plus and ESPN networks. What do you make of how the season has gone so far, really league-wide, but with the Preds as well?
Well, I jumped in there. I don't know if it was taped, but that I did not watch their game last night. I saw the score, so maybe I need to start watching because it didn't look like a good score. Maybe I'll bring them some better luck. Overall, the Preds have been awesome. They've been really fun to watch, and frankly, for me, as somebody who has had the good fortune of covering them through a couple playoff runs over the last few years, not last year. I wasn't assigned to them last year, but I feel like they're playing a little bit like they used to, meaning tough to play against. There's like a grittiness to them. They've got this sort of a chip on their shoulder that's really fun, really entertaining, but also really difficult to play against. And then I felt like for a couple of years in there, though, they lost that. They sort of lost their mojo. And still obviously had some great runs and still made it to the playoffs and had a fun series last year. But against Carolina, I think, and pardon me as I'm like trying to remember which year is which, so I may screw it up, but I think I had the next round Carolina, Tampa. I don't know, I just watched them. I think they're fun. I think the big guys have really stepped it up this year. Like the guys that are expected to score are scoring big goals. You've got Tanner Jeannot as a new guy who's just awesome. I mean, just so fun to watch and does everything he's supposed to do. He does way more than he's supposed to do or what is expected of him. And then, Roman Josi is always one of my favorite players to watch. If I have a vote, he would definitely get my Norris vote. I used to have a vote. I don't know. It all got changed during COVID. I don't know if I got a vote anymore. I just think it's not just the points he puts up. I mean, I do find, side note, that there's a Norris for the best defenseman, but it's really the defenseman who puts up a lot of points. And we have a Selke, right? A defensive forward. So I almost feel like there's a word that's missing in there, like the defensive defenseman and all around defenseman or whatever it may be. But regardless, Josi does it all. I love the way he skates. I love the way he plays. As a former defenseman myself, I'm envious of the way that he moves around the ice. But again, I just think they're fun to watch. I think that I got a chance to see him live for a couple games in December when they were on a great run. I mean, just piling up the points. Obviously, I know they had a tough one last night in LA. I believe they have Vegas tomorrow. That's going to be a big one because Vegas is desperate. They're hanging on by a thread right now. So that's going to be a fun game to watch. I'll definitely tune in and check that out. But I think your other question was about the whole league. The league's been a surprise to me, actually. Living in the East, spending a lot of time with the Islanders. Obviously, I live in Boston, so my kids are huge Bruins fans. But I do think that the West is fascinating because it's so wide open. And right now, what we see now is the standings, if the playoffs started today, could be vastly different in a month. Whereas I feel like in the East, it's just more where they're going to slot in. The teams seems like we know which teams are going to land in the playoffs. I'm sure Islanders fans, if they were listening to this, would get mad at me for saying that.
We're talking with AJ Malesko of ESPN, talking NHL and league-wide, and we know you love Roman Josi, and we here in Nashville vote for you to have a vote. We want you to keep your vote, especially if you're going to vote for Roman Josi. But the Norris conversation is so interesting because every year it feels like it's somebody's turn to win it, and usually it's someone who hasn't won it yet. So this year that would be Cale Makar, and the argument for Josi, like you've said, has been a long time, like, don't look at the points. He's not a points-first guy. But now he's had multiple points in every game for a week, and he's leading the NHL in points by defenseman. So how do you balance the fact that he is still the best at all the things you pointed out, while also, because the Preds top line is so good and they're generating more off the rush for him to score goals, he's becoming more of an offensive defenseman too?
Yeah, I think that for me, it's all of those pieces. And by the way, Cale Makar is having a phenomenal season too, and he is well deserving of the award. Victor Hedman is somebody who is always deserving of the award too. I think last year maybe a little less so, and then it came out that he had a torn meniscus, I think, in March and through the playoffs. So that might have, had something to do with it. But he's he's a phenomenal defenseman. But you look at all three of those guys are playing on teams with good teams in front of them. So it is interesting. Like, how is this award? What do they look like? Valuable to your team, putting up points, whatever it may be. But, UC Saros has played great hockey in the net for you guys too. So you've also got that sort of safety net. Whereas, yes, Roman Josi does a great job defending. Well, what I like about Josi is he covers so much ice. Like, whenever I do your guys' games, I always want to get one of those trackers just to show how much ice he covers, because it's really cool to see how much he's able to cover. And suddenly you look up and you're like, how did he get over there? What and you back it up, but give me a wider angle, let me see what his route was. But again, you're right. Is it somebody's turn? Josi got it 2 years ago. Is it Cale Makar's turn? Maybe. Or you could look at it the other way. Cale Makar's so young, he's got a lot of time, and he certainly has a Norris Trophy in his future, whether it may be this year. And he is fun to watch. Some of his highlight reel goals are just eye-opening.
Yeah, he's done it to the Preds this year. We're talking with AJ Malesko, NHL analyst and former U.S. Olympian, NHL analyst for ESPN now. And you mentioned the Preds' top guys. They've really scored. Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, Ryan Johansson, who are playing together now over the last month, are all having career years. Why do you think it is that those guys, two of whom had really struggled at times in the last 5 years or so, in Duchene and Johansson here, why have they gotten going, and what's it been like for you to see it all happen together?
Well, I think it's been, again, I'm an unbiased bystander, right? I mean, I come in and I watch these games and I'm right down the middle. I sometimes like to pretend I'm an honorary member of the Preds broadcast crew because I'm really good friends with all of them. And so I pretend that I am when I get to cover the games, but I am not, in fact. So I get to watch them from a different perch. I come in for a couple of games here and there. I don't get to watch them for 82 games. But I think that in the past couple of years, it's been frustrating sometimes when you see the skill those guys that you mentioned have, and just not quite doing what people expected of them, or not quite producing or finishing or whatever it may be. And again, it was sort of that mojo thing as the whole team. I don't know, again, not being around the team day in and day out, but I do think that John Hines has done a fantastic job, and he's got their ears, and whatever he did to build their trust, and none of us are in the room, so who knows, but he really has them bought into his systems and bought into his, basically just his whole messaging. And I think that that's been something that has made a huge difference for those guys. I also think that you've got a great captain in Roman Josi. I know he's been the captain before, and you've got the goaltending, and you've got some of the younger guys that are coming in with the energy. I mentioned Tanner Jeannot, and the, to me, when you look at a good team, there's all pieces, right? You've got the veterans and Ryan Johansson and Philip Forsberg, who's still there through Monday, which is great news for the Preds. And you've got some of these older guys, and Ekholm, who's been playing great. I think he's back from injury now. He missed a couple games, but and then you have some young guys that inject some enthusiasm. So I think that maybe some of these veteran guys are looking around and saying, we got a pretty good core here. So what do we have to do? And they've all sort of bought in. So I don't know, when you look at a good team and there's that intangible, obviously if you could bottle that or put your finger on it, then we'd be millionaires if we could figure that out, right? But somehow they seem to have it right now, and obviously it's still a fair bit of the regular season to go, but they seem to be moving in the right direction.
Still a lot to be decided in the Western Conference playoff picture, as you said. The Avs are very clearly at the top, but then you have the Flames, who have been very good, the Blues, the Wild, then the little bit of wild cards, like can McDavid and Draisaitl take the Oilers big places? Will the Golden Knights get back to where they've been? And then the Preds are in the mix there too. So is it possible to predict what these playoffs could be like? Because it seems like the Preds are built for a physical series. They have a goalie that could steal you a series or two, and they have top-end superstars. So it seems like no matter what style it is, the Preds at least have the ability to win anyway.
Yes, and I know it. Well, to answer your question, no. To predict, you're putting me on the spot, and I'm going to plead fifth, because that is just a recipe for disaster. But I hope that I'm put on a Western Conference game, because they're all compelling matchups, and they're all exciting, and they're all something different. And you're right, the Preds are built for anything. And to me, that is the sign of a good team. And I think the same could be said, Colorado, they can play physical, but they would prefer to play fast, right? Calgary, physical, they can, and at the beginning of the year, by the way, I had Vegas as my pick, and I'm looking at them now. I'm thinking, oh, shows what I know. I mean, they are about to implode, but again, they have plenty of time to right the ship, and they've had so many injuries. They've had to deal with the Jack Eichel, just the attention and getting him back on the ice. So there's been a lot going on. Leonard's not in net right now for them, so that's a big loss. So who knows what happens there? And again, over the last, what do you have, 5 weeks left, I think. A lot can happen. Those are a lot of points. Again, that's why the Western Conference is so fascinating. Dallas is another team to me that can play a lot of different ways. Heiskanen's out right now with mono, so I don't know what the timeline on that for for them, because that's a big loss at this point in their lineup. So they're really fun matchups. Minnesota, I'm coming down to Nashville. I got Nashville, Minnesota, maybe, I don't know, I can't remember, but it's a Western Conference matchup, so I've got that game, which will be fun because, again, Minnesota, now you got Fleury in net too, so that certainly adds an element of fun. And I'm thrilled that Marc-Andre Fleury is on a playoff team because the league needs him.
One last league-wide question for you as we talk to AJ Malesko from ESPN, because you really get to see everybody, and it's great to have your perspective. Scoring's way up this year, and it's been fun to watch. Why do you think that is?
I think that the league over the last couple of years, and they've made no secret about it, have tried to adjust the rules so that the scoring is at a premium, right? That, the offensive zone face-off guy can put his stick down first, that, you can't change after an icing. So you got tired defenders, all these different things that I think are starting to pay off. And, I think that goalies often stay one step ahead of shooters in terms of technique, in terms of training, and in terms of gear. But I think right now these shooters are out there. I mean, there's some really good, creative shooters in the league right now. And you look at this the youngsters. I mean, I guess at my age, I'm allowed to say that, but you've got the Jack Hughes and the Trevor Zegras, and you've got some of these guys coming in that are really offensively creative. And I think they're making goalies move a little bit differently or read the game a little bit differently. So that's the only thing that I can explain why scoring's up. It is fun. It's exciting. I know. I mean, it's funny. I work for the Islanders, and that's exactly the opposite kind of hockey that Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz want to play. But it's at the end of the day, we're all in the entertainment business, right? That's what the NHL is. It's entertainment. Put people. Who doesn't want to watch a game that was 1-6-5 in overtime, right? I mean, now arguably you could have a 1-0 game that's just as exciting because of the just misses or the incredible goalie saves. And one of my kids is a goalie. So as a goalie mom, I guess I should never, ever hope for a 6-5 win. But I do. It is it's an interesting question. And I don't know the answer other than maybe some of these rules that have come, and they're protecting players too. All the sticks on all the ticky-tacky penalties on hands that sometimes I look at and I question, does that really need to be a penalty? But they're protecting the offense, right? I mean, they're making it harder and harder to defend in this league.
And then the eternal question is, will those same things still be called in the playoffs? And we'll find out in a month and a half. We'll take a break, come back with more from AJ Malesko, talk about her time as a national champion at Harvard and also her gold medal with the U.S. Women's Olympic Hockey Team. You're listening to Smashville Live, which as always is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Here they come, turn 4, final lap.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe. Join me for Chasing Checkers every Sunday morning at 8, and you can hear some of the big names in racing, like Denny Hamlin.
I always like to undersell and overdeliver.
Dale Earnhardt Jr.
It would be amazing to watch a cup race compete there again.
Kevin Harvick.
I think we learned a lot.
And several others. It's Chasing Checkers every Sunday at 8 on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Proud to announce that they have won the Top Gun Award for the best Pella sales organization in the U.S. They have the best culture, best customer satisfaction, and best growth in the business. To celebrate, Pella is offering their amazingly affordable products at 0% financing with no payments for 12 months. Do you need new doors or windows? I suggest you shop with Nashville's Pella experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe here for Dr. Kelly Rice, Family Cosmetic and Dental Sleep Medicine. It's dentistry that can change your life, and I know the dentist can be scary sometimes, but they treat you like family. That's what's important. They do more than just dental work. They quiet your snoring, which I need a ton of help with, heal cold sores, and give you a beautiful smile. No dental insurance? No problem. Just join their membership club. Visit kellerice.com or call 615-373-4488 now to schedule your cleaning and checkup.
Parman Tractor and Equipment is your one-stop tractor and equipment solution, and Middle Tennessee's Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer. Rent or purchase a track loader, mini excavator, large excavators for your job site, or something in between. Parman is now hiring and seeking qualified candidates for construction equipment truck drivers, service technicians, and more. Apply at parmantractor.com or call 615-865-7800. Come be an employee owner with the Parman team, your Middle Tennessee Link Belt and Takeuchi dealer.
Third and Home is Germantown's bar with a ballpark. Overlooking the Nashville Sounds, you can have the best seats in the house when baseball season returns April 5th. Pro tip, stop by before the game to watch batting practice from the patio and enjoy happy hour food and drink specials. The mouth-watering menu at Third and Home includes signature items such as wings, stuffed breadsticks, classic burgers, and hot chicken and waffles. Third and Home is open Tuesday through Sunday at 11 a.m. For more, visit thirdandhome.com.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good, really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless, now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Tonight, Tyrese. The hook shot. The 76ers head to Cali to take on the LA Lakers.
Beautiful feed. Westbrook to James.
Coverage begins at 8:30
on ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
This is Smashville Live.
Back to Smashville Live here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Max Scherz, your host on this Wednesday night, joined by AJ Malesko, former U.S. Olympic gold medalist and now hockey analyst for many places, including calling NHL games on ESPN. As always, Smashville Live tonight is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine here on ESPN 102.5 The Game, your radio home for Nashville Predators hockey. AJ, the Olympics are in the books for about a little month and a half now since the Olympics came to an end. You got to call a lot of those games from the U.S. You weren't in Beijing, but what's it like for you as a former Olympian to get to announce Olympic games and see it all from afar?
Oh man, well, how much time do you have? I'll try to keep it simple, but it's weird for me that I've been a broadcaster for so much longer than I was an athlete with Team USA. I played in 98 and 2002. I mean, I was on the team from 94 through 2003. But then I went to Torino in 06. I went to Vancouver in 2010. I went to Sochi in 2014 and then Pyeongchang in 2018. And then I did 2 summer games too in Rio and Tokyo. So it's been awesome. I mean, it's fantastic to be a part of it. It's fantastic to stay involved. In the women's hockey side, to have a front row seat to watch the growth of the game has been phenomenal. I mean, just to see where it's come, how these athletes have pushed the ceiling since my teammates and I played. I love to see it. I love to see the rivalry between US and Canada continue. It's heating up. It was always hot. I can't get any hotter than it ever was, but it stayed the same. But I hated not being on site, obviously with everything going on in the world on many fronts. It made sense that we stayed in Stamford, Connecticut and called it off the monitor. But it was tough just to sit in this little booth. Called all my games pretty much with Kenny Albert, and we just, we do what we can, but you miss a lot. You can't talk to Zoom and stuff, but it was definitely one of those things that I really missed being in the arena. I was used to it after COVID games and 2020 bubble for the NHL. We did a lot off the monitor. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, I've gotten very used to being right down the middle, but it still rips my heart out a little bit every time Canada wins. But you know what? I bleed red, white, and blue. What can I say?
You were on that first gold medal team in the first Olympics where women's hockey was played. And I want to go back even before that, because I'm curious, you took 2 years off of your college career at Harvard to prepare and train for those Olympics. When did you first find out that women's hockey would be coming to the Olympics? And what's the process from there of you're a member of the national team deciding to take that time off of college, and what am I going to do to get ready for these first ever games?
Yeah, so I always had aspirations to play hockey. I loved it. I mean, just wherever I could. Olympics wasn't in my future. I wanted to play in the NHL because I was the only girl on a boys team, and that's what we all wanted to do. I went away to boarding school, which was the first time. 10th grade was the first time I played with girls, or played with exclusively girls. And it was 1992. I was a junior in high school when I found out that the Olympics would initially, said it would be an exhibition sport in 96 and then a full medal sport in 2000, but then they split the winter and summer games. So in 1998, they decided to make it a full medal sport. And so that immediately became my goal. But privately, that wasn't something that I necessarily talked about. It was, I wasn't the type of person that sort of, I don't know, it was too risky, right? I didn't want to let people know. And then if I didn't, I had no idea because I didn't know who else was out there and how many girls and women's played hockey at the time. It was a different era. I didn't know if I was good enough. I didn't know any of that stuff. I went on to play at Harvard, as you mentioned, and we weren't actually very good at Harvard when I first got there. By my senior year, we won the national title, which was amazing. But to answer your question, I made Team USA in 94, so the end of my freshman year at Harvard. And then, but we have to keep making the team every time there's a tournament. So it's not like, I laugh at these NHL guys that have these like 8-year contracts. I'm like, that would be nice. I'm like, I got like a 2-week contract. I'm basically here until the next time we got to, and by the way, my contract paid $0. But different time, different era. And so I went off, I played at Harvard. I competed with Team USA at different tournaments here and there, the World Championships in the spring, which is after the college season. And then we were every August, we went to Lake Placid for a training camp. And it was in this August of 96. So right before my senior year in college, that we were going off to Finland. And David Quinn, who hockey fans know because he was the New York Rangers coach, he was our assistant coach. And he pulled me aside and he said that I should take 2 years off. I should take this year off. And I'm like, but I only have 1 year left. There's nowhere to play. We have no professional league. And he said, what you have, what your skills, your strengths are is your brain, the way you see the game. That's not changing. What you need to work on is your physical strength. You need to get stronger. Go work with Mike Boyle, actually that's how Hal and I we used to train together with Mike Boyle up here in Boston. I went and worked out with Mike Boyle. He was the BU weight coach at the time and just had to get stronger. So I wasn't sure though, to your point, like, what do you just like every year, every September, I go to school. That's what I do. I go back to school and that's put one foot in front of the other. And Quinny said to me, if you are destined not to make the Olympic team, you are not going to be in Nagano, Japan with these women, and you're going to be sitting on the couch watching them play. Don't you want to make sure that you left no stone unturned and you have no regrets? And that was the moment I said, okay, I'm doing it. Now, then I had to call my parents and tell them, to call my coach and tell her. There were all sorts of different things that was, a little bit, people were surprised by it. But I went and trained with Mike. I got a lot stronger. I skated with the Chowderheads, a men's league here in Boston at like 11 o'clock on Wednesday nights. So it was a really interesting year. And then ultimately it worked out. I made the team. So I always tell my kids to take risks. It's so good, all this stuff. And they said, but it worked for you, right? Like it's a happy ending. But it was, but I worked my tail off and it was well worth it. And I do wonder whether I would have made the team if I hadn't taken that extra year. We'll never know, but I wouldn't have been as good. That's for sure.
We're talking with 1998 U.S. Olympic gold medalist AJ Malesko here on Smashville Live, ESPN 102.5 The Game. And as you elongate your college career a little bit, end up winning that 1999 national championship when you went back to Harvard. There was also a position switch at some point along the way that I'm really curious about. You were a center and then you were a defenseman your second time around in the Olympics. What was the hardest part of that? Crazy.
I actually got to give David Quinn another shout out. He was the one who made me a defenseman. He was the one who worked with me endlessly up in Lake Placid. And my forward teammates we would do these drills to work on my gap control, work on my timing, work on my pivoting ad nauseum. And they were like, we need you to get the hang of this quicker because we're so sick of these drills. But essentially, yeah, I was a center. Growing up, you sort of play everything. I was much more defensive when I played with the boys. And I was a good skater. I started on figure skates, so I could figure all that stuff out. And then when I started playing with girls, they put me at center. I'm big. If anybody who's met me, I'm 5'11", and I was a better skater than a lot of the girls then. So they just wanted me in the middle of the ice, and then went away to Harvard, continued to play center. So I made the Olympic team as a center. And then we had actually a bunch of, it was the year 99, 2000. We had a ton of our defensemen injured. We had like an ACL tear, we had a meniscus, we had like all these crazy injuries. And so all of us were rotating through playing defense and drills while we were sort of waiting for them to come back. And I kept going into the line. And coach, he said, Coach Ben Smith, he said, I'm starting to like you back there. And in my mind, it's sort of like, wait, what? You don't switch positions when you're playing on Team USA. Like, that's just so unusual at the highest level to switch positions. And he said, listen, you got stronger in the two years you took off. You got strong. You're a good skater, but you weren't strong enough physically to, work on my edges with my legs. So they moved me back there, and it's fun. I think of myself as a defenseman. When I played center, I was a defensive center. I took a lot of face-offs. I used to joke that I was a FOGO, face off, get off. I didn't really get off, but penalty kills, I did that. Take the face off, and then we ice the puck, and I hightail it to the bench. I wasn't fast enough to be a penalty killer. So yeah, it was different. But the best part about it is that I've got 4 kids now. When I coach them, and I coach when they're little, especially, I got an 8-year-old, and I move them all around in the lineup, and parents tell me that no, she's a center. Like, she's 8. I mean, she is, it's, or, somebody else, oh no, he's a defenseman. Well, no, he's going to play this today, and so I would always sort of have a little bit more street cred when I can say that I made that transition at the highest level, that I think little 10-year-old right here can make the transition today too.
That's great. AJ Malesko, what a great hockey story. And good thing you moved to defense, because we hear Hal Gill modeled his game after you. Is that true?
Oh, you know what? I don't know if you're insulting me or if you're insulting him, but you know what? Either way, we were, and actually I will insult him by saying we were very similar. We were big. I'm not quite as big as him, though, obviously, but in the world of women's hockey, sort of slow footed. And we used to work at Mike Boyle's all the time on that, trying to be a little quicker footed. And you got to perfect that. When I played defense, by the way, I did become a penalty killer because I covered so much. I had such a big wingspan. So yeah, I'll take that. I'll take the skills he modeled his game after me. Let's go with that.
I love it. AJ Malesko, you can hear on ESPN, also on the New York Islanders broadcast if you're checking in on Trotsy every now and then. But tons here on 102.5 The Game, and we hope your schedule's right and we get you for a Preds game here next month, AJ.
I hope so. I look forward to it, and thanks so much for having me on.
Our great first guest, AJ Malesko, here on Smashville Live tonight. We'll take a break, come back with former Preds assistant coach and longtime NHLer Brent Peterson for the second half of the show. Smashville Live, as always, is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine here on ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Inside knowledge on the Titans.
Todd Downey's got his notepad out right now, just writing things down.
Inside knowledge on the Predators.
They can go right into the forecheck, and boom, you get a beautiful goal from Colton Sissons.
And then there's a team in Knoxville.
How excited should Tennessee fans be by what they've seen from Josh Heupel in year 1?
Wake up and hang out with Robby and Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10. Brought to you by Little Guys Movers on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and The Game Nashville app. Watch live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube.
It's that time of year again as college basketball's tournament is finally upon us. From all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline.net is the #1 source for sports betting needs and info. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. BetOnline.net, where the game starts.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about my friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is here. If your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Spring Special for a limited time only. Save up to $1,000 with Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit that lasts with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company.
Out on the trail today, I noticed the signs of spring. A purple lilac, a monarch butterfly, crisp cool air, and fresh bright sunshine. And all this beauty puts me in the mood to head over to my favorite adult beverage depot, Red Spirits and Wine, where I can load up the wagon with the best wines, whiskey, and brews to wet my whistle. At Red, you'll always find the best selection and value, but their Cracker Jack crew is flat out second to none. Just square dealing folks and straight shooters with great recommendations, and they never come off like some of those big talking fancy pantsers that are just totally full of, well, let's just say fertilizer. Red Spirits and Wine is the only place I do my trading, and once you've seen Red, there just ain't no sense in looking elsewhere. It's like British pop singer Billy Ocean once said, no more love on the run. Red Spirits and Wine is the real deal. Open 7 days a week at Highway 70 South and Old Hickory Boulevard. And follow Red on Facebook and Instagram as well. We'll see you at Red.
Cutting the price of your wireless bill feels good. Really good. Actually, it feels great. You should try it out. So cut your bill by switching to Straight Talk Wireless. Now offering our $45 Silver Unlimited plan with 5 gigabytes of hotspot and nationwide 5G on America's largest, most dependable networks. The $45 Silver Unlimited plan from Straight Talk. Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise.
A month equals 30 days. See terms and conditions at straighttalk.com. 5G capable device required. Actual availability, coverage, and speed may vary.
Welcome to Allstate, where we bring it all together. And bundling your home and auto is good, right? And it saves you up to 25%. It all comes together. Allstate. Here, better protection costs a whole lot less. You're in good hands with Allstate. Click, call, or visit allstate.com to save today.
Bundled savings discounts will vary by state. Saving up to 25% is a countrywide average of savings off the home policy. Combining the multiple policy discount for having auto insurance with Allstate and the welcome discount savings at enrollment.
Hey, I'm Matthias Ekholm, and this is Smashville.
Ekholm, his shot, he scores! Matthias Ekholm gets the Predators' third of the night.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 1025, The Game.
Second half of the show starts right now. I'm your host, Max Hers, taking you through an hour of hockey talk tonight to start the hockey block here on Wednesday nights on ESPN 1025 The Game. Smashville Live, as always, is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine Wednesday nights through the regular season. 6 to 7 here on 1025 The Game, your radio home for Preds hockey. Another familiar voice for fans who love the Preds coming up right now with a great playing career, a great coaching career, and also a Preds broadcaster. The great Brent Peterson is with us. Brent, thanks so much for coming on. Great to have you.
I haven't had that many greats in a long time.
I'll give you one more. 12 years in the NHL, and then 13 years as a Predators assistant coach, the first 13 seasons of the franchise from 98 all the way up through 2011. But let's start, Brent, talking about this year's team. What do you think of this year's Preds group and how they've looked really through the second half of the season? Still looking good.
Well, even I always am optimistic of the year for the team. And you know what happened? They lost me. They're so good now. They work hard. They play every night. They play more nights than other teams play. They're tough. They stick up for each other. They have good goaltending. They have solid defense. And then their forwards are scoring this year. We've always had trouble scoring. So we've had everything going right for us. Our guys have dominated some games and they played very poorly in some games, but they always come back with a good one. I'm expecting a better one tomorrow night because last night was kind of a stinker, eh? So, but I love the game. I love the team. I think with Jeannot, and I think what happened last year, it was it was middle of the year and we were out of the playoffs at the time by a few points, and we brought up guys that we didn't know whether they could play or not because we had nobody else left. Everybody was hurt that last year, and so we brought guys up, and sure enough, guys like Cunnin and who else was that? Trennan, Jeannot. All these guys came up and they played great, and they didn't do it just for a week. Some kids come up here and they're so excited. They play hard the first 2 games, and then they lose it. They're gone, and they're never to be seen again. But they ended up bringing these guys in, and Scotty Nickel is the general manager down in Milwaukee, and he says they can play. This guy can play right now. This guy can play right now. This guy can't play right now. You got to give him a little more time. Now we gave a lot of time to Tolvanen. He was down there for 3 full years, and now he's scored everywhere he's ever played. So that's why I think he's still going to be a good player. And he's not scoring like they want him to score, but he's got one off the post, off the leg, and he'll be there for us in the right time, because those guys, when they score at every level, they always score at the top level too.
What if I came up to you, Brent Peterson, in the late 90s, early 2000s, when you were an assistant coach for the Preds and the team was playing a low scoring style? The NHL was low scoring at that point. And I said to you, in 2022, the Nashville Predators are going to have 235 goal scorers on the same line.
I don't think I would have said 235. I would have said you're crazy with that, but we barely get one in the last 22 years. One guy over 30 goals, and Arby made it. And now Forsberg's playing great hockey, and it's too bad we couldn't get him signed, because he's a great player. We'd love to have him with us, but things are just calmed down now for the moment. They got to get their mindset on finishing off to getting in the playoffs, number one. Number two, going as far as they can and making it a real fun time around here, because there's nothing better than May for hockey in Nashville, and it's great to be around when it's like that.
What about this year's team, Brent, shows you that the team is both led well by the captain and the players, and also coached well?
Well, you can see they're coached well, because they do things as a systematic. There's two ways to play the puck. You play with the puck and without the puck. When you play with the puck, you use your ingenuity and your moves and all that, and giving goals with players. When you play without the puck, everybody has to be on the same page. They have to be doing those same things together, or you get scored on. So when the Predators win 4-0, they got goals from everybody, and they got shutout hockey from Saros, and even Dave's big man. He played great at times, and even last night he got a little bit out of control by the players that weren't playing in front of him. But the guys are. It's a good league, and everybody's playing hard, and everybody's trying to be there for you. And I think the guys are. I think we'll be all right with the players we got now.
Talking with former Preds assistant coach, former NHLer, and Preds broadcaster Brent Peterson here on Smashville Live. You bring up UC Saros, who's been amazing, and David Riddick has backed him up when he's needed to, which is not very often. And many of the Preds teams you coached, especially for the first 6 years of Pekka Rinne's career, the goalie was the best player on the team, and you had a goalie that you wanted in there every game if you could. How did you guys manage goalie usage and try to avoid overuse of your star goalie?
Well, Trotzy always figured that you needed to have at least 50 games out of the one guy, and 70, 50 to 55 maybe, and then another, you're gonna have guys that out twice or three times or whatever. But I think that it was hard, because we wanted Pekka in there every single night. We wanted him in. And when like the beginning of a couple of years, the year we went to the finals, we started like really slow again, and Pekka stood on his head for a whole month. We got really, really, really fat and lazy, because Pekka was doing everything. He was all world. So when he was all world, guys just say, well, we'll float over here, and we'll cheat over there, and we'll get a bunch of goals. And Pekka was getting bombarded with 50 shots, but we'd win 2-1 or something like that, or get a point out of it, or get an overtime, or get a shootout. So it was kind of interesting to see. But I don't think a goalie can handle. UC can handle this kind of thing in 1 year. But year after year after year, if you go to the finals or you go to the semifinals, and year after year, I don't think a goalie can handle more than maybe 60 games a year. And the other 22 go to the backup. And if you have a good backup, like some teams have, they take over for the main guy when he gets. And there's also injuries. That's the bad part about that. If you play them too much, they get injured. That's what hurts. And so we're pretty lucky to have the goalies we've had in the last little while. And UC's great. He's played terrific for us. He's so strong. He's so motivated, and he's so technically sound. He's just a great young man.
Last month, the Preds retired Pekka Rinne's jersey, first number retired in team history, and you got to coach him and be here at different capacities for his entire amazing career. What was that week like for you?
It was fantastic, because we had all the guys came back. Everybody came back. As many guys as I think I counted 12 guys. Steve Sullivan, Scotty Nickel, all these guys have played with Pekka, adored him. And, they wouldn't come if it was just a normal guy, but for Pekka, they came and they paid their own way. So it was great to see that they came and to support him and honor him and he's just so gracious and such a great guy. And you can't go on. I'm going to cry, but I'm crying again. I remember the things that went on, but it was a great night and a terrific thing to have. And the Predators did it upright this time.
Do you remember the first time you met him?
Well, you know what happened was our goaltending was awful all year long, and we had I shouldn't say that because Ellis was a pretty good goalie, and it was subpar for what you need for the playoffs. And so David says, okay, I'm making an executive decision. We're bringing up Pekka. We got Pekka at the airport, and he had no gear with him, but his flight got canceled, and then he got in a big snowstorm. He went back to Milwaukee. And Ellis won like 3 in a row, and then he won like 10 out of 12. Ended up being our goalie for that year. And that year we played against Detroit in the playoffs. So Pekka was coming up and playing. He had to wait another half year. So the guy, he was worth it, every bit of it, to wait for him to come and play and do his thing. But he was very, very honored to be a part of that situation last week, and it was great to see him again.
You dealt with so many personalities, both in your time as an NHL assistant coach, as a junior hockey head coach, and as a player in the 70s and 80s. So you saw it all in terms of what NHL players are like. How can an NHL player be the nicest person on the planet? It almost seems like it should never happen, right? But that's Pekka Rinne.
Yeah, well, Pekka Rinne, he's a one of a kind. So the rest of us are not really. We're no joy to be around. But the league is so good now, and you know why the league is good is because the young players are so good. They're so talented. From the time they're 6 years old, they have skating coaches, and this is what Europe used to do, or all the teams in Europe the Russians used to do this. They train them right from when they're younger, and they'd be 18, 19 years old, ready to go play for the Soviet Red Army team. So we started snapping them over here and getting them over here with Konstantinov and those guys in Detroit. But I mean, it was the players are so good now. They're so strong and they're so good. Look at Matthews, 4 goals his first game. He has 56 goals. He's only in his 3rd or 4th year. He's terrific player, and he does it. He can play with other guys, and I mean, there's so many good players. Look at even I don't even know. It's been many players that are ready to play right now, and used to not be ready to play. They used to have to go to the minors for a while. That's what we used to say. That Nashville runs through Milwaukee, but no more. I think you can get out of Tomasino's done it, and a couple other guys have done it. And I think that it'll be more that way, that teams will take their first rounders and bring them right in if they're ready to play.
He's Brent Peterson. We will take a break, come back with more from Brent, talk about his hockey life, playing, coaching the Preds, and of course, all the great work he does to battle Parkinson's disease here in Nashville. This is Smashville Live. I'm your host, Max Hers. As always, Smashville Live is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine. We'll be back with more from Brent after this on 102.5 The Game.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings from 5 to 9.
Did you see the Tennessee Titans?
He has all the weapons to make it happen.
There's so much to pay attention to.
Greeny from 9 to 11.
Ryan Tannehill is the most disrespected player.
Art and Han from 11 to 2.
You never stop punching.
They've got to learn how to close the deal.
And the Paul Feinbaum Show afternoons from 2 to 6.
Are these legitimate contenders to the party?
Your exclusive home for ESPN Radio in the Music City.
ESPN
94.9 and the Game Nashville app.
From the Fox 17 News Code Red Weather Center.
I'm Fox 17 meteorologist Greg Bobus. Tonight, the wind dies down and temperatures fall into the lower 40s. A mainly cloudy sky overnight. Clouds break throughout your Thursday. And temperatures not quite as warm as today, but still just above the 60-degree mark with one more night in the 40s tomorrow night.
This weather report brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical.
Call the Happy Face Truck today.
It's Markdown Madness at Electronic Express. Bring the tournament to your living room with 4K TVs from Samsung, LG, Sony, Hisense, TCL, and more. We've also got huge savings in every department. Computers and gaming, smart home, housewares, mattresses, and more. Plus, save up to 40% on all appliances with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online with free express delivery on most items. Markdown Madness is going on now at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Well, folks, I hope your bracket is not as bad as mine, and I hope that you get in on FanDuel Sportsbook's offer to give new customers a $150 instant bonus guaranteed on the tournament. Joe Rexrode here to let you know you can get $150 in bonus site credit. All you got to do is place your first bet of $5 or more. How you bet the rest of the way in this crazy tournament is up to you. You can go money line, totals, prop bets, whatever you want to do. Look, I mean, I could tell you, that I like Villanova right now, but I mean, gosh, I don't know if I would trust listening to me. Do whatever you want. Just know that with Cash Out, you also do whatever you want. Just know that with Cash Out, the ball's in your court. You can close out your bet whenever you want before a game is over. Join today with promo code Joe102. Place your first $5 bet to score $150 in bonus site credit guaranteed. That's promo code Joe102 on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You must be 21 or older and present in Tennessee. Your first online real money wager. Only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is now withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line 800-889-9789.
Victory Award-winning New Amsterdam Vodka knows all about it, but in life, it's not always so clear. So New Amsterdam Vodka believes that in life, you've got to find your own wins. You've got to overcome your fears, go all in, even when you've got nothing at all. Find your wins. And when you do, raise that glass of New Amsterdam Vodka in victory. You've earned it. New Amsterdam Spirits Company, Modesto, California.
The Titans have been making additions.
The Titans have signed Austin Hooper to a one-year, $6 million contract.
And subtractions.
So Julio Jones shown the door. Surprise, not surprise.
I'm not surprised.
As free agency is well underway, what's next for the two-tone blue?
You're going to have to make some cuts, and you're going to have to move some money around.
Keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
This is Smashville Live.
Welcome back to Smashville Live here on ESPN 102.5 The Game. I'm your host, Max Hers, here on this Wednesday night. Final segment of the show, and we bring back the great Brent Peterson. As always, Smashville Live is presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine here on 102.5 The Game. You guys know Brent as a Preds radio broadcaster. He also spent 13 years, the first 13 seasons of the Predators franchise, as an assistant coach under Barry Trotz. But Brett, let's go back before that. You played 12 years in the league, from the late 70s to the late 80s, for the Wings, the Sabres, the Canucks, and the Whalers. What sticks with you the most from your NHL playing career?
You know, I was a bad player and a pretty good coach and a real nice guy sometimes, but I was a bad player. I remember the guys that were playing in the league at that during the 70s. I went from 78 to 89, and it was Guy Lafleur in Montreal. Bobby Orr was still playing. I played against Bobby Orr. Gordie Howe was still playing. All these guys that were, legends everywhere. I got to play against. Even then later came Pittsburgh and Mario Lemieux. I got to play against him. So it was just a great time for all the players were sort of finishing their careers, and the new guys like Jagers were starting their careers. So all these guys was, and then there's Gretzky and Messi. I forgot about them. I keep forgetting about Mr. Gretzky. He was terrific. I can tell you a quick story about Gretzky. I used to, I'd win a draw and I'd hold a stick, and he got finally sick and tired of me holding his stick. That he says, you know what, Brent, if you like these sticks so much, I'd get you a dozen if you want them.
That's amazing. All right. Well, now we're going to introduce you as the guy who got chirped by Wayne Gretzky, Brent Peterson, here on Smashville Live. What's it like for you, Brent? You've been to pretty much every Predators game in franchise history. What's it like for you in this modern NHL to see so many guys who are sons of your former teammates and combatants in the league?
Well, that's great to see. And like you said, we're getting so old. I'm getting so old that I'm going to see my grandson or somebody else's grandson in the league before I die. But it's been nice because you know what? The league is so good, and it's great to see the young players come in the league and play right away. Kachucks are great. I mean, they're great. You'd love to. You hate them to be on the other team. You'd love to have those kind of guys on your team. That's the Jeannot's and Jeannot kind of player they galvanize the whole team, and you just feel good out there when you're on the ice that you can do something, and then it might not come back to haunt you because you got a guy going to jump on him from behind. But it's been a real interesting thing to see. The players are so strong and they're so big, and they're just they're just men already at 18, 19 when they're drafted and even not drafted. So it's good. It's a good league. It's getting better. It's fast. That's the one thing that's the difference between the years I played. We were kind of slow and, not very good padding on our shoulder pads, just caps at times, and sometimes not even any chest gear or anything like that. And we just went out and we sort of floated around and made plays. And Gretzky, he turned that around when they got going with speed. And when they got going with speed, they became a young man's or a small man's league. And now it's back to being a pretty big man's league. You got to be pretty tough. You got to go through 4 rounds of best of 7s to make the Stanley Cup, win the Stanley Cup. And it's just a tough grind. And it's a great league, and it's great sport. Great sport.
You retired in the summer of 1989, then quickly became an NHL assistant coach for a couple years, and then went back to coach your old junior team, the Portland Winterhawks in Portland, Oregon. What was it like for 7 seasons being a junior head coach at a place where you played, and also bringing that team to prominence where they really still are? They're still at the top of the game.
Yeah, they, the whole thing about going back and coaching there was, it wasn't because I was wanted to be there. I needed a job because, and you know what? I sat on the bench for 11, 12 years playing, thinking, I can do better than this coach can do. Listen to my coach behind me. He's terrible. He's talking like that, and he doesn't know what he's doing. He has no clue what he's doing. He's either, and so I sat on, and then I went back to junior. I tried to coach. It's like teaching. I had to teach from day one. We had bad 15-year-old players I was coaching, 15 to 20-year-old players we coached in junior hockey, and we had to have rules. We had to have all kinds of things that they never even known what to do before. So it was a very, very unique experience for me because I had to teach them, and I had to be their dad, and I had to be their surrogate mom and dad and everything, and I had to be on ball to do things that needed to be done. We bussed out west. We bussed from city to city and played the games, but you had to be a teacher too. And I thought I'd know how to teach. And it took me a good 7 years to just get it down where I thought I was, is when I'd sit on the bench playing. I said, this guy's an idiot behind me, but no, it was very fun.
You guys won the Memorial Cup, which is the junior championship across the 3 leagues in 1998. And then you get an opportunity to be an assistant coach for the expansion Nashville Predators. How does it happen, and how do you decide to do it?
Well, I was interviewing at St. Louis, Portland, or St. Louis. I could stay in Portland, go to St. Louis, or go to Tampa Bay, or go to Nashville. And Nashville sort of got in third on the lineup. And I came to them last, and then I called my wife and I said, we got to come here. This is a great town. It's going to be even greater. And we knew we had a tough go with the, we didn't have the firepower that we have now. We didn't have the money that we had then, but that we had now. But I think that, one of the guys that really helped our team in Portland and then became an NHL All-Star was Marian Hossa. I'm sure everybody knows who Marian Hossa is, and he's a great player, and he was a great player, and he did some. That's why the Blackhawks hate us so much, because Marian got that goal that sort of messed up our run to beating them out that one game and one series, but that's the way it goes. And Barry Trotz and David Poile have been great to me. The Nashville Predators have been great to me. Let me hang around, and I get to sit beside you in the box every night in the press box and listen to your calling of the game almost. And it's been really good to do that. And I'm excited to do that. And it's going to be a fun time. And one little story about Trotzy though, Barry Trotz, we finished the championship game on a Saturday night, and they wanted me to come in like Tuesday. And I says, guys, I got to go get a back surgery. I had back surgery on Tuesday, and I had to wait 2 weeks. And right to the last minute, they made me stay in Portland. And then I flew out here, and the doctor says, don't lift anything heavy. So I flew out here, and Barry Trotz met me at the terminal at where the bags come out. And and I says, Barry, can you please carry my bag? And he says, sure, Brent. So there's a head coach of the NHL team carrying my bag down the airline. So,
And that was the first time you'd ever met Barry in person?
Yes, for a longer than a few seconds.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Brent Peterson's got stories for days. And lastly, Brent, we'll finish up on this. You've done so much work with your Petersons for Parkinson's Foundation. Your golf tournament every year is such a hit. In the last couple minutes we have here, what was it like being diagnosed with Parkinson's, and then after that, letting the team know about it and continuing to battle it and be a champion for it through all these years?
Well, it's been great because of the people of Nashville. They've been terrific to us. They've contributed not only their money, but their time and their efforts in that. And they've been, and it's, you know, Parkinson's is a tough disease because it doesn't really affect you. Like if you have Alzheimer's, you can't remember things in that. And Parkinson's, you can't get a quarter out of your pants, or you can't, some people won't walk and they're hunched over and that's just a disease. And that's, so what we do is we try to raise money with the golf tournament and the dinner. The dinner is always good because they always have a good comedian. So we have a few laughs, and sure enough, we can make some money for them. And what we do is we take all the Nashville people that have Parkinson's, and we pay for all their activities so they can do activities and they can afford to do it. And they have Rocksteady boxing and things like that. We have a crafts painters group, a song group. So they're all, and we had about 250 people in the last month go from all of Nashville to be part of the 250 people to be part of the Nashville Predator, or the Brent Peterson for Parkinson's thing.
The foundation is the Peterson Foundation for Parkinson's, and you can learn more at petersonforparkinsons.org. Brent, thanks so much for coming on, and I will see you at the rink on Sunday night.
Yeah, it'll be fun. What time's the game start? I better be on time, eh?
5.
Okay.
Bright and early.
I'll be there.
The always scientific process of Brent Peterson. Go ahead. Yep.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks to our producer, Kenny Adams. 2 great guests tonight here on Smashville Live, as always, presented by New Amsterdam Vodka, Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, and Red Spirits and Wine here on 102.5 The Game. That's all we got for tonight. Penalty Box Radio is next.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Hey, Darren McFarland here, and I'm excited to tell you about my friends at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Spring is here. If your AC or heating unit is old and inefficient, then you need to take advantage of the Spring Hill Spring Special for a limited time only. Save up to $1,000 with Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Get a York unit that lasts with a 10-year parts and labor warranty with up to 60 months no-interest financing on all York units. Restrictions do apply. Schedule now at springhillac.com. Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, a York certified comfort expert company.
The Titans have been making additions.
The Titans have signed Austin Hooper to a 1-year, $6 million contract.
And subtractions.
So Julio Jones shown the door. Surprise, not surprised.
I'm not surprised.
As free agency is well underway, what's next for the two-tone blue?
You're going to have to make some cuts, and you're going to have to move some money around.
Keep it locked on Nashville's best sports talk.
ESPN
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Your home value is way up. You can use that money now to pay off credit cards or remodel your house, or both. Hey, Willie Donner for Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can convert that home equity into cash as little as